Are we all set?
Yep, good to
All
go.
set?
Live
Okay.
streaming should be going now.
Okay, thank you. Good evening and welcome to the Finance Committee meeting on April 13th. I will do the roll call at this time. So we have Supervisor Syed, Councilperson McCraw, Councilperson John Delarada,
Yes.
Councilperson Bill McPartlin, and Councilperson Rosemary Jacquet. I don't see Paul Briggs yet, Town Attorney Paul Briggs, but I do know that Elena Finan is on here. May I have a motion to accept minutes from the March 9th meeting?
Motion to accept the minutes.
Thank you. Okay,
I will
so
second that motion.
thank you. Okay. So as always, we have a long agenda.
Isma,
So
we just have to have a formal vote. So all in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, go on. Sorry to interrupt.
No problem. Thank you, Elena. Okay. So once again, we have a really long finance agenda as always. And so I will summarize the items. And if you have any questions, please stop me and ask me any questions or concerns you have. So the first one is always a discussion regarding certain budgetary modifications. So they are basically our general modifications, moving one item to another. We have some legal bills for $12,000. And then we are taking it from contingency. The main thing that you will see a big budget transfer over there for $255,600. That is from, we are requesting once again, a bridge loan from fund balance for one of the DASNY grants that we just found out about. That was for the 2 critical pathway connection. It was a DASNY grant. Apparently, the town got it in 2019. There was no funding done for it, either ban or bond. The project, I think, majority of that was completed in December. So now we have to pay the invoices. So we have to cash flow it again. So altogether, the total bridge loan that we provided for our grants is a total of $887,000. So to the tune of about $900,000. Any questions about that? Okay, well,
So can you just back up? So what's the plan for this?
the plan is we have already sent, so right now we have 3 files. Thanks to Laura. So we gotten 3 files. So we have already sent all the information to our grant writer, Sue Lombardi, to start looking at what we can get the reimbursement for. So we are still waiting for the other 7 grants files that you will get from Laura when she's ready to give it to us, and then we'll start the reimbursement process. So right now that's cash flowing. Again, for the other 7 projects, I don't know what the reimbursement will look like. So as we are finding out, we are asking for the cash flow to bridge loan that.
So these were matching grants where we had to put in funding, or are these grants we've gotten but we haven't submitted to the grant agency?
Well, I've been talking to you about it. They're different grants. Some have DASNY match. Well, DASNY doesn't have any match. If there's some other, then there's probably a match with the town. But this one doesn't have, because it's a DASNY grant, doesn't have to have a match. So but usually the practice should have been that the town, for that amount, the town should have borrowed money through ban or bond, floated debt, get the debt, and then pay it as soon as the invoices come and the turnaround, and then on a monthly basis or milestone basis, should have been asking DASNY to reimburse that. Because what I foresee right now with COVID going on, with everything, again, I don't know what percentage we are going to get right now, not looking at the other grant agreements, but usually I'm saying about 3 to 6 months right now. That's the time frame for the money to be refunded to the towns and cities. It used to be 90 days, but what I'm hearing is 3 to 6 months right now. So I know that Sue Lombardi is working on 3 grants, which are the bigger, significant ones. One is the River Road for $250,000. One is the Upper Union Crosswalk Grant for $125,000. And now we have already sent this, all the invoices, all the paperwork to her for this grant. So as soon as we are getting the information and backup and the work paper and the files, we are doing our analysis, and then we are scanning everything and sending it to Sue. It took, just to scan those 3 files, it took Janet and Frank a day to scan all the work paper and send it to her. So, but we are doing it. So, you know, we were closing the year end. So we actually coming on the weekends to do our year end and AUD work. We were here again this late nights, but we are doing whatever needs to be done. Part of daily process. It's okay. As long as we get this done, that's the main thing. Any questions?
We're covering it with our fund balance, so we're not borrowing the funds. So we'll have a little bit of savings there. It would have cost us a little money to borrow money to pay these off. But then we're depleting our fund balance, which we would have maybe gotten some interest on. So it's a trade-off, right?
It's a trade-off, right? And once again, I mean, again, I will say it openly right now, out of that 900,000, I cannot guarantee you what percentage we are going to get back as reimbursement, because some of them are old grants. Some of them had, you know, in-kind contributions, some of it, some other agreements. So as we are finding the information, getting the information, we are doing our analysis on that and sending it to Sue. So whatever we can get right now, let's start the process going, you know, because otherwise it's going to create a cash flow issue for the town. I mean, that's almost $1 million we are talking about. So I will give you an update. As soon as we start getting something back, I will give you regular monthly updates about this. Because believe me, I want this money more than anybody else wants back for the town. Any other questions? Okay. So an update. Denise, we can't hear you.
I'm okay.
Okay, thank you. Item C, everybody's favorite item, an update on the unemployment insurance fraudulent claims. So all of a sudden, this fraudulent activity is picking up statewide. There were 4 employees between the last 2 days who either self-reported to us, or they had 2nd or 3rd claims, or we got the work paper for them. It's really amazing that today, New York State Department of Labor has sent an alert out to all the municipalities, to not the municipalities, but all the residents. And according to them, these people they use real New Yorkers' identities. Probably they were stolen during previous data breaches involving institutions like banks, insurance companies, and major employers. So the main thing is that these unemployment insurance fraud rings, they target New Yorkers who are employed right now and not collecting unemployment benefits. So they are the ones that are getting hit most of the time because there's no active claim for them. So the state doesn't know. They said, oh, we have seen that, you know, that's fine. They see the correct social security number, they see the correct address, and they just process that. So we really have to be vigilant. And this is especially hitting people who work in healthcare, education, government, and nonprofits. They have been particularly hit by that. So they have sent this whole process, which I'm going to share with the whole town. There's a work paper that needs to be filled out. There are many steps because now they're getting aware of that and they are saying, hey, the state needs to take care of that. So as soon as I get the claims, I get in touch with our insurance company. But at this point, we feel pretty safe in saying is that there was not a security breach with the town's data, but that's an overall, it's rests with the New York State Department of Labor. There was some kind of a breach there or the other companies.
Well, thank you for all your efforts around this, Ismet. I know it's taken up an incredible amount of your time. As most people know, I was one of the victims of this. I think I might have been the first victim. And I just want to let everyone know, we've been really trying to stay on top of this. The police have intervened. This week, it became auto insurance fraud, and an auto insurance policy was opened in my name. So it's exactly what you said, Ismet, is that people are trying to glean that information and then use it for additional or other fraudulent activities.
And not only did they sell it to other people, so they are using it. It's the same information. They change maybe a little bit of the address or the little bit of the social security number, and then they start new claims with that. So I will I'll share that the steps that need to be taken care, and also how you report it to the DOL with the whole town. And if you can share it with the residents, would be great. Thank you. Okay. Item number D. Now, I am really excited about that part. So right now, we offer Medicare health benefits to our retirees. So there's a 65 post-retirement, 65 and plus retirees. We offer them 2 different policies through MVP. And the town as a total spends about $447,000 for 77 retirees. When you hired me, I promised that we are going to go for the low-hanging fruits, and we will aggressively do that. So when we hired the new insurance company, USI Health Insurance Consultants, I asked them to aggressively bid this out. They actually sent it to 7 carriers, local and nationwide, and really excited that 2 of the carriers were really aggressive, really gave us really good numbers. And the best thing is that they have guaranteed their rates over 18 months. So next year, we don't have to worry about the 16 or 12% increases that the industry is seeing. So we are tying in the rates. Now, depending upon which carrier we use, the town can have savings over 18 months, anywhere between $206,000 to $356,000. So that's really a great news. Part of that will affect, if the implementation date is as of July 1st, we will get 6 months this year and another 12 months next year. So I'm really excited about that part. Any questions about that?
Ismet, I had asked you about this before. I was concerned that there might be something in the collective bargaining agreements that would require us to negotiate this, but you assured me that there is not.
There is none. There is none.
These are just retirees that are not covered under the collective bargaining agreements, correct?
Yeah. Sometimes they are. I hadn't gone back and looked, so that's great news.
Yeah, not here.
And to your point, Rosemary and Denise, we wanted to make sure that we are not causing any kind of hardship to this population, especially. So either the benefit should be exactly the same or they should be very comparable. And so that's where the 2 carriers have come in. Everybody responded, but there was okay. There would have been some major interruptions in the service and or the perception of interruption of service to the retirees, because that's the population we really don't want to disturb. So we want to keep their benefits intact. So that's why we will talk about the 2 carriers later on. Okay. The least favorite topic is E, discussion regarding the year-end estimated projections for the fund balance for 2021, 2020. We are closing the year-end. We will probably close the year-end by June, end of June. But I promised you that every month I'm going to give you an update where we stand for 2020. Majority of the numbers are set in stone. There might be a little bit, 50,000, 10,000 fluctuation here and there. I doubt it though. But what we are looking at is, we know that last year COVID has significantly impacted the town financially. And now we see the carryover effects in 2021. So as a result of that, we had a deficit. Right now we see a deficit of including all funds, townwide, a deficit of about $1.35 million. And majority of that is coming from our general fund balance. So, and now it's impacting 2021. The revenues, the main reason is that revenues are lower, but our expenses stays the same. So obviously those expenses did not decrease. We have to fund them somehow. So we are using the fund balance. And I really feel strongly that we are really digging into the fund balance at a pace which is not normal, which is at a faster pace than we should have been doing that. So, and we need to stop this bleeding. We need to take some action steps and stop the bleeding before it becomes a structural deficit on an ongoing basis.
So this was an enormous concern through the budget process. I know the supervisor had that concern. John Delarada, more than anybody else, has had the concern over the last few years about the fund balance. And one of the steps that I thought we were taking toward this was the challenge, the 10% challenge, the retirement incentives, all these pieces that we built into the budget, thanks in great part to your leadership, Ismet.
Thank you.
Is it really just a revenue versus expense issue? Are there other areas we should be targeting? Are there some things that we missed when the supervisor and I negotiated the budget? Like, what are you seeing?
Well, this is for 2020. So the $1.39 million is for 2020. But now that deficit is going to carry over in 2021, right? And on top of that, and I'll talk about it later.
Okay.
So the fund balance reduced. So now we need to take that and we are going to parse it out. Now we have already started spending that fund balance. We are giving loans out to the tune of $1 million, right? We don't know how much we are going to get back. We have talked about in the police department, they still have a deficit of $120,000. At this time, I mean, this is just my suggestion that we should have a hiring and a spending freeze for at least 6 months and see what the shape of the town is. It's just that it's a carryover and it's going to continue. So we need to take some step before it becomes really a structural year-to-year deficit going forward. And with the stimulus funding, we know we are going to get money, but I think, Supervisor, please correct me. I think we will probably get the first payment, maybe if we are lucky, by the end of this year, right? And then we don't have correct guidelines about it. What are the rules, what are the regulations? And the second payment is going to come in 2023. So
right, they're going to be installment payments, so we won't get the 2.4 all in at once. It'll be a payment spread out over time.
Yep. And the first payment is most probably, if we are lucky, once again by the end of the year, the way it's going forward right now. So once we get that, yeah, we should take a big chunk of it and put it in the fund balance or reshovel the budget or do something about it. But in the meantime, to control the cash flow and to build our fund balance, we need to take steps right now, to take short-term steps.
So we have to seriously consider a spending or hiring freeze. Is that correct?
I am suggesting that it's the town board's decision. I'm saying do it for 6 months. and see
Thank
where
you.
the town is at that point. This is just my suggestion.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I had sent you an email where I'm showing where the fund balance, how the fund balance is being used and projected to use. Again, these numbers can change tomorrow, for better or for worse. Okay. Item F is an invoice for the repair of an electronic sign for $850 approximately. And we just want asking for the town board's approval to split it between over 3 funds, so water and sewer, and then general fund for the police department and the rec department. So that's something minor. Okay, so the next item is G, which is G and H are going to be sort of new accounting concept. And Elena, please jump in if you need to. So we are, what did you say, Elena?
Oh, I didn't say anything. I'm just listening.
Okay. So we are recommending that the town establishes a reserve fund. So we are not at this point asking any money from the town board to be established, to be set aside for the reserve fund. So a reserve fund is basically is a prudent thing to do for the towns. And those are the funds that you have your fund balance. And then you take part of the fund balance for specific items or projects and you earmark that. So there are legalities around the use of those funds later on. Usually, I would say the municipalities would usually use it for building a fund balance toward a specific capital project. That's one of the ones that is approved and allowed by the comptroller's office. So for the towns, it needs a resolution to establish a reserve fund. Not that we are saying that any money should go towards that. I was going to do that, but because of the legalities and the restriction and the earmarking of specific projects, I'm recommending we don't do that. We are just recommending we just establish the fund with the town's resolution. Now, the second one, H, is in lieu of that, not in lieu of that, but in addition to that, we are requesting that we establish, town board have passed a resolution establishing or letting us assign assigned fund balance. So assigned fund balance is basically the same thing as a reserve fund. However, it gives us more flexibility. It's not earmarked for anything. So, and this started about last year within the definition of GASB 54. This way we will have more flexibility with the funds and we can spend money out of it as deemed necessary. So now I'm going to go back, Denise, to 2021 budget. We set up a goal of 4% reduction. Now, the department head was supposed to meet it 3 ways, either increasing the revenue or having savings in 2021, or if they have adequate savings at the end of 2020, last year, we will use part of that and put that in this fund. So it doesn't create any burden on 2021 budget, but the department heads still have the flexibility of using those funds if they are necessary. So for that, we are asking for certain amounts for each fund to be put in this assigned fund balance. So in other words, so after you close the year, you have fund balance, right? From there, you are going to take a certain part of it and you are going to use it, set it up as an assigned fund balance. Your fund balance stays the same, however, split into 2 pieces. So for that, as you recall that, I think that I've talked about the reserves, how we want to do that. We are asking that for the general fund, we would like to set up put aside 563,000 from 2020 savings into this for the general fund use. And majority of that is for 2 projects, which were given money from the fund balance, but they were, because of COVID, they could not be completed. So in 2021, they could be completed. And one of them is the sale of the River Road property, the 2890 River Road, right? I have the correct address. So that's one. For highway, we are asking for 6,000. For sewer 1, 36,000. Sewer 6, 57,000, and water for 39,000. Again, those are the savings from 2020 that we want to, as part of the 4%, we want to put in the 2021 budget.
How did you come up with those allocations? What would they be used for?
Line by line, account by account.
Yeah, so again, you mentioned like 6,000 for highway and those things for sewer. So those were savings from each of their lines?
That's right. So I think for highway, it was, they wanted to purchase a used snow blower. You remember that?
Right.
So they had funds, they needed 6,000. They had adequate money in part of that, some in 2021. So we are using that 6,000 towards that.
Right. I guess I'm following. I thought there was a lot more highway leftover money. So I was thinking you were going to take all of that leftover money and earmark it or allocate it.
No. I'm taking some part as a unreserved fund balance for the town.
Okay.
Not all of the 2020 savings will be given back to the departments. It has to match the 4%.
That's what I'm
asking.
asking. That's what I'm asking. So if they've already met the 4%, which, for example, I think almost all the departments have, and they still have,
well, except for one,
right? And they still have savings. That isn't also, that's the way I'm understanding it. So if water and sewer had, met their 4%, which they did, and they also had savings, would that money that was left over from their 2020 budget be, put in an assigned fund balance for water and sewer use in 2021?
Like, for example, right. So for example, like Matt needs to for well development, right? So that's one of I think it's the water fund that we are setting aside 30,000 towards that instead of borrowing money for that.
Right. No, that makes sense. I'm just wondering if that's how it's allocated by department savings, whatever their savings are. They're, you're requesting that we have an assigned fund balance for leftover money for 2020 that will be used for, projects or equipment or whatever it may be for the particular departments that saved that money. Is that correct?
If deemed necessary, yes.
Right, and it's what the department heads always asked for in previous years. They never liked that at the end of the year, their money was, pick a word, stolen, swept, taken. So this way, the money is still going somewhere. It's not sitting in their budget, but everybody knows where it's going. And so the point of the 3 funds that you mentioned that are part of my committee, that's all the money that we found, Ismet, when we sat there with Janet and Matt and went every single line in all his budgets, right?
Right. So again, I just use as an example, but obviously that, highway would have a similar situation with whatever savings were there, correct? Which I don't even know the number. I think you might have in one of the documents you sent us, Ismet, shown the surplus.
Right. They had already met their 4%, right? By reduction in the expenses for 2021, they needed more funds to buy that snow blower. So that's
yes, right. But I'm saying I think their savings were more than the 6,000.
Of course they were, yeah.
Yeah. So that's what I'm asking. Whatever that is, where does that money go? I understand the 6,000 allocation for the snow blower, which was severely discounted, which is great. But where will the rest of their savings go?
So once again, this is the total fund balance So from there, we are going to have an unreserved fund balance. The
Hold on.
majority of that will go.
So
And
it's
then,
two different things.
right, and then part of that will go towards 6,000 towards the assigned. So the total fund balance stays the same. It's just split into two different pieces. So the rest of,
Sorry, yeah, I couldn't hear, and there are other mics on, so I had trouble hearing you. I'm going to turn my mic off, and if anybody else could do that. Yeah, so then could you say that again so that I understand how
Okay.
that's going to work? Thanks.
so let's say he had savings, right? He had savings, let's say. He is building a fund balance. Let's make numbers up. 100,000 is the fund balance addition, right, to his existing fund balance. Now, we are going to take that 100,000 and take 6,000 and put it under different category under assigned fund balance. And he can use that. But the rest still belongs in the fund balance here.
Right, so that won't be assigned. It's just, again, sort of to use what Denise was saying, it's sort of, are you saying that if it's not otherwise allocated, it'll return to whatever, the general fund or highway fund or wherever, if it's not
Right.
otherwise allocated?
Right.
Okay, so it's not.
But that gives us more flexibility. That's it.
Right, we've identified some things. So what you listed are things that are identified that those particular, the savings will go towards. All right, I understand now. Thank you.
I know these are, like accounting wise concepts. So I hope I'm making it clear to everybody. Any questions about that? I know it's dry and boring, but I think you got it. Thank you. The next one is item I, authorization to purchase IPS software for the planning, zoning, building department. I'm going to ask Laura to talk about that.
I believe that's Seth.
Actually, that's me.
Okay.
So Bill had previously budgeted for the BAS software, and in 2009, at the end of 2019, there was another piece of software purchased for Laura's department that tracks fire inspections, and Bill must have neglected to put it into his budget for the maintenance for that software. So basically, it puts me over what my budget was for the planning department's software maintenance contracts. So that's what the modification is for, because the fire inspection software module, the software maintenance for it was not figured in for this year.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions? Or Laura, is that's the explanation that I got from the people that bought BAS. Does that concur with what you remember in 2019?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you, guys. We don't have anything referred from public safety. There was one item referred from Public Works, and that was to purchase a Jeep, a Latitude, but we are going to table that because Matt was going to use the funds from the ban issue that we are going to, second part of the ban issue that's going to happen in first week of May. So we will come back and ask you for next month. Actually, the bids came in and they were lower than expected, so that's a good sign. We don't have anything referred from transportation and or from community programs. We don't have anything referred from economic development. Supervisor, do we have enough time to go into executive session?
I believe we do. So I will motion right now to enter into executive session pursuant to Public Officers Law, Section 105, subsection F, to discuss the employment history of a particular person or matters leading to the appointment, employment, or promotion of a particular person or persons. Do I have a second on that motion?
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, we're going to enter into executive session. We will take up no further business from the floor for the Finance and General Government Committee. We will adjourn at the conclusion of executive session, and then I will call to order the agenda meeting, and that will be at 7 p.m. Those that should stay for executive session are town board members, Ismet, the town attorney.